This is a brief introduction to Sweetest Love, I Do Not Go by John Donne. Donne's dates are 1572 to 1631, and he was known as a poet, scholar, a member of parliament, and eventually a priest. He was born into a wealthy family in London, but he and his family faced difficulties because of their minority faith, that is the Catholic religion. At a certain point in his life, he secretly married Anne Moore, a mentor's niece, and for which cause the father put him in prison for a short while. Eventually, he had to toe the line and was forced to consider change of faith, and he renounced the Catholic faith and became a priest in the Church of England. King James I, who was on the throne at the time, also had a bearing on this. As a writer, Donne wrote sonnets, love poems, songs or lyrics, elegies, that are poems for the dead, epigrams, that are short but impactful poems. He also wrote satires, which use humor to ridicule something or someone. And his other writings included religious poems and sermons that he delivered as a priest, and translations of Latin works into the English language. Now, the metaphysical poets are 17th century poets who are known for certain qualities in their writing. Literally taken, the word metaphysical means transcending physical matter or the laws of nature. Donne is often referred to as the founder of the metaphysical poets, and he had the company of contemporaries like George Herbert, Andrew Marvell, Abraham Cowley, John Cleveland, etc. It was Samuel Johnson, also known as Dr. Johnson, who called these poets metaphysical for their use of extremely unlikely comparisons and for their, he believed, exhibition of knowledge. They wanted to show to the reader, that they were well read. So, metaphysical poetry includes a complex literary device which deals with mismatched or unlikely combinations, and this is something that is often extended throughout the body of the poem. Further, we go into what is known as the metaphysical conceit. Now, conceit is a figure of speech which is usually a simile or a metaphor, and this is one that forms an extremely ingenious or fanciful comparison or parallel between apparently dissimilar or incongruous, that is, mismatched objects or situations. The metaphysical conceit associated with the metaphysical poets of the 17th century is a very intricate and intellectual device which sets up an analogy or comparison between a spiritual thing or a spiritual quality and whose parallel is an object in the physical world. And this is, the metaphysical conceit is something that is used throughout the entire structure of the poem. Let's take the example of Donne's A Valediction Forbidding Mourning, where he compares two lovers' souls to a compass, where, although they are separate, when you use a compass, you know that the two legs always come together. Okay, let's look at the quote here. If they be two, they are two so, as stiff twin compasses are two. So some of you may remember the use of your compass from geometry lessons, and this is the unlikely combination that he makes with two inseparable lovers in this poem. I've given you the link here if you want to explore further. Now, what style do the metaphysical poets use in their works? They use dramatic expressions, they use hyperbole, that is overstatement or exaggeration of things, and usually this is done very deliberately. They also take liberties with syntax, not really paying attention to words or phrases or how they should fit formally into the structure of a sentence. And these poets are known for the use of shocking images, paradox, intellect, novelty, extravagance, psychology, conceit, wit, obscurity, colloquial style. Colloquial has to do with regular human language of communication, not something which is formal. And harsh meters, because they don't really adhere to a certain structure of poetry. And this point has been taken out from your text, that is The Wings of Poesy. Now, looking at the poem in terms of style, Sweetest love, I do not go. First, let me mention that it's from the collection Songs and Sonnets, which was posthumously published in 1633. We know that John Donne died in 1631. So this collection of poems was published after his death. Okay, this poem is a lyric, which is a formal type of poem which expresses personal emotions or feelings, usually with the help of a first-person narrative. And so, again, another definition is that it is a poem which expresses personal emotions through verse, okay, or through poetry. This poem is a 5-stanza poem with a rhyme scheme AB, AB, C, D, D, C. Okay, if you go through the first stanza that is posted here, you will also get the same rhyme scheme. Okay, we can see that there's not much uniformity in the structure of the lines. The use of the metrical foot in poetry can be seen here. A foot can be a combination of stressed and unstressed syllables, or vice versa. Now, in the 5th line, we see only 4 syllables. Okay? And this is true for all 5 stanzas. So here I've just taken the first stanza as an example. The 5th line is a short iambic line of 4 syllables. and the use of four-syllable lines, or these four-syllable lines are also called demeter. Okay, and we have tetrameter or trimeter in the other lines. Okay, so which is a combination of 3 or 4 feet in poetry, in a line of poetry. So I want you all to look up these words, and perhaps we'll look up at poetic measurements, okay, in order to enhance our knowledge of how to look at the style or structure of a poem. So that's it as far as an introduction to the poem is concerned. I hope you've learned something from this presentation. Thank you.